This week's artist is the sculpture work of Annie Tempest. Now, Annie, I've known about Annie's artistry for quite some time here through her very popular UK-based cartoon series. It's named Tottering-by-Gently. None of you, unless you're British, will actually understand what that means. It's a British phrase. It's about going through the age of old, basically going through old age at a very gentle pace. Here's one of the more recent issues of Country Life. And on the very last page is her cartoon. Now, there's a particular one which just caught my eye. Great, thank you for showing that. I just got a huge chuckle out of this one. So just take a second to take a look at this. I think we probably all felt a little bit like what this teddy bear is going through. All right, now Sarah,
I feel that guy, AJ.
Indeed, can you tell us a bit more about Annie?
Hi, good morning. Yes, thank you for that intro. So Annie Tempest is a British artist, sculptor, and cartoonist. And today we're actually going to focus on her Conductor series of sculptures. Tempest was born on August 22nd, 1959 in Zambia. She was the second of 5 children of Henry and Janet Tempest. And her father was actually the second son of the Tempests of Broughton Hall and eventually inherited the estate in North Yorkshire. She began her artistic career drawing cartoons, as we just saw, but she really turned to sculpting and the, quote, grammar of the sculptor's language after the death of her 18-year-old son. In an article by Country Life, it says that in her grief, Tempest used plaster, ceramic, stone, and bronze to rescue and reinvent herself. And her sculpting really helped her grapple with feelings that she needed to express. So as I mentioned, we're going to focus on the series of orchestra conductors that she made recently. And she's not interested in assigning a meaning to these sculptures. She really wants people to create their own narrative. So rather than necessarily explain each piece to you, I'm just going to kind of flip through some of the sculptures and I'll let you come up with your own narrative. So more than records of performance, these abstracted figures kind of form a salute to vitality. Capturing concentration and movement, they celebrate those moments when we're fully and fabulously alive. Most of the titles refer to a musical tone or musical words, and in turn, the movements that the conductors make when communicating that word with the orchestra. So allegro meaning quick and fast tempoed. This means with love, as the conductor takes a knee, and Tempest asks us, where in your life did you find a passion that affected every fiber of your body in this electric way? Delicato, meaning delicate, and the conductor is arching their back and making their hands small. Giocoso, meaning having a lively or playful quality to the music. And Tempest studied anatomy at a medical level, and she really wanted to know it so accurately so that she could play around with it. And we can see that with the size of the hands being huge in comparison to the head and the waist. And this is my personal favorite of the conductors. This is maestoso, meaning in a majestic manner. And this one is just so playful and free. And Tempest's sculpture work is really helping her express these feelings that she couldn't express verbally while grieving her son. And finally, this is pianissimo, which means soft in volume. And we can see the conductor curled up to be physically small in order to communicate softness with the orchestra. Here's one of her sculptures. This is not from the Conductor series, but as I mentioned, she doesn't talk about the meaning of her sculptures. She wants people. This one resembles someone ascending to heaven. A cartoonist, but we can cover that in a future art talk. So now we're going to focus on the business development team's favorite sculptures. And here is Peter's with The Thinker. There were 10 casts of the original made by Rodin, and a bomb irreparably damaged the Cleveland Museum's version of The Thinker in March 1970. No one was injured in the blast, but the statue's base and lower legs were destroyed. The remaining sections of the cast were blown backwards to form a plume at the base, and the entire statue was knocked to the ground. It was reported that this attack was undertaken by a radical political group doing military action in Vietnam. Here is, of course, the Lincoln Memorial built to honor President Abraham Lincoln. It's located on the western end of the National Mall in DC and was built in the style of a Greek Doric temple. Darren's sculpture is close to his heart. It's a 3D fabric and fiber designed and created by his sister. And this sculpture depicts the Sleeping Bear Sand Dune, a U.S. national park in northwestern Michigan. The dune separates Lake Michigan from Glen Lake, where his family has summered each year for many decades and is a special place to his entire family. So Chuck's sculpture is a ship model created from the designs he led as the principal naval architect. This ship will be the lead ship of the Constellation class of guided missile frigates. The concept design contract was awarded February 2019 and ran through June 2020. The proposal for detailed design was developed over the summer and fall of 2020 and awarded in April 2021. And the final design review is later this month. So it was in the works over a period of more than 3 years. And this summer, actually, Chuck will be doing a 3-part series on shipyards. Mickey Mantle was one of Tom's boyhood heroes, and he loved everything about baseball. As a boy, he read the sports page cover to cover, literally everything. And that's actually how he learned how to do math in his head, calculating batting averages for his favorite players like Mantle, Sandy Koufax, and others. Heather's favorite sculpture is part of the Venetian's collection by Dale Chihuly, a well-known glassblower. And it's an unlikely marriage of formality of the vase and the unrestrained exuberance with the blue coils wrapping around it. This sculpture symbolizes world peace as our thoughts and prayers are with Ukraine. Patty made it herself out of modeling clay, carved it with a knife, and painted it with Mediterranean blue and bright palm acrylic paint. Located on Route 89 in Vermont, Frank would see this sculpture on his way to college from his ski trips. These marine invertebrate fossils were found in Vermont, dating back to the Paleozoic era, 300 million years ago. And even though it's a landlocked state, at one point it was underwater. So I hope you enjoyed this week's ARC Talks on sculpture, and I will see you all next week.
Wow. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to the BD team for sharing. I didn't realize that there were dinosaurs all the way in Burlington, Vermont.
Right.
It's news to me.